Taman wiped the grease from his hands and looked at the control panel one more time. The numbers looked good. Everything was working the way it should. He smiled a little. This was the part of his job he liked best. When the machines made sense, when everything worked properly, life felt simple. He was alone in Section 7 Delta, which was exactly how he preferred it. No small talk, no awkward conversations, just him and the machines. Taman had taken this job on Horizon Station to get away from Earth, away from his failed marriage, away from the questions everyone kept asking. Up here orbiting Mars, nobody cared about his personal life. He was just another engineer keeping the station running. The station was busy today. Some kind of big diplomatic event was happening in the main wing. Aliens from all over the galaxy had come to meet and talk about important things. Taman didn't pay much attention to politics. Let other people worry about that. He had environmental systems to maintain. He was packing up his tools when the first alarm went off. The sound was sharp and urgent. Taman's heart jumped. He looked at the nearest display screen. Red warnings filled the entire screen. Something had gone very wrong in the diplomatic wing. Explosive decompression. Section 4 Alpha. The words flashed on the screen. Taman felt cold. That section was full of people right now, hundreds of diplomats and their staff. If the hull had been breached, they had maybe minutes before everyone in that section died. His radio crackled with panicked voices. Security teams were responding, but they were too far away. Taman looked at the map on his screen. He knew this station better than anyone. He had spent 2 years crawling through every maintenance tunnel and emergency passage. There was a backup bulkhead control near Section 4 Alpha. If someone could reach it and seal off the breach manually, they might save lives. Taman grabbed his emergency kit and ran. His body moved before his mind could argue. Through the maintenance corridor, down the access ladder, past the warning signs. He could hear the screaming now through the walls. The station was shaking. Secondary explosions. This was bad. He reached the emergency bulkhead panel and started working. His hands were shaking, but his training took over. Bypassed the main controls. Route power through the backup systems. Come on, come on. The door mechanism was damaged, but not completely broken. He could work with this. That was when he saw her. An alien woman, tall and elegant, lying unconscious in the corridor. Debris had fallen on her. She wasn't moving. Taman could see strange markings on her face that glowed faintly. Some kind of natural light from her skin. He had never seen her species before. The safe choice was to seal the bulkhead and save everyone on the other side. One life versus hundreds, but Taman couldn't do it. He couldn't leave her there to die. He ran to her, grabbed her under the arms, and started dragging her toward safety. She was heavy. Each step felt impossible. Another explosion rocked the corridor. Taman lost his footing and fell. The alien woman fell on top of him. He pushed her to the side and scrambled back to his feet. Keep moving. Don't stop. Just a little further. He got her to the safe side of the bulkhead and went back to the controls. His fingers flew over the manual override. The heavy door began to move, slowly closing the breach. Through the gap, he could see the destruction on the other side. Twisted metal, fires, the void of space visible through cracks in the hull, the door sealed with a heavy clang. The corridor was safe now. Taman checked the unconscious woman. She was breathing, but her breath was shallow. He had a small emergency oxygen supply in his kit. It was meant for humans, but maybe it would help her too. He placed the mask over her face and turned on the flow. More explosions came. The station wasn't stable yet. Taman covered the woman's body with his own, trying to protect her from falling debris. Something hit his back hard. Pain shot through his shoulder. He gritted his teeth and held on. Just stay alive. Both of them. Just stay alive. Time became strange. Taman wasn't sure if minutes or hours had passed. He could hear voices in the distance. Rescue teams. Finally. He tried to call out, but his voice was weak. The woman beneath him stirred slightly. Good, she was still alive. The rescue team found them eventually. They had to cut through a jammed door to reach the corridor. Taman heard someone say his name. Someone else said something about an ambassador. They were lifting him up, pulling him away from the woman. He tried to tell them to take care of her first, but the words wouldn't come out right. Everything was becoming dark and fuzzy. When Taman woke up, bright lights hurt his eyes. A medical bay. He was in a hospital bed with various machines beeping around him. His shoulder hurt badly. He tried to sit up, but a hand gently pushed him back down. It was Hyejin, his friend from the security department. She looked tired but relieved. Her eyes were red like she had been crying. That was strange. Hyejin never cried. "You idiot," she said, but her voice was gentle. "You almost died." "The woman," Taemin said. His throat was dry. "The alien woman. Is she okay?" Hyejin nodded. "She's fine. More than fine. You saved Ambassador Nira of Velthar. Do you have any idea how important she is?" Taemin shook his head. He didn't know. He didn't care about important people. He had just seen someone who needed help. The security footage shows everything. Hyejin continued. "You risking your own escape to drag her to safety. You sharing your oxygen with her. You protecting her with your own body. Taemin, you're a hero. The whole galaxy is talking about you." Taemin felt sick. He didn't want to be a hero. He didn't want people talking about him. He just wanted to go back to his quiet life with his machines. "There's something else," Hyejin said. She looked worried now. "The ambassador wants to see you. She's outside right now with about 50 other important people. She's been waiting for you to wake up." Before Taemin could respond, the door to his room opened. The alien woman from the corridor walked in. She looked completely different now. She was dressed in beautiful flowing clothes. Her glowing markings were bright and pulsing with color. She was tall, taller than any human. Her eyes were large and completely black like deep space. Behind her came a crowd of other aliens and humans, all wearing official-looking clothes. Taemin wanted to disappear into his hospital bed. Ambassador Nira walked to his bedside. She looked at him for a long moment. Then she spoke. Her voice was musical, like bells and wind together. Taemin didn't understand the words. Hyejin whispered a translation in his ear. "She says you saved her life by offering your own as payment. By the ancient laws of Velthar, you have proven yourself worthy. She claims you as her intended." Taemin stared. "Her what?" "Her intended," Hyejin repeated. "Her future husband." Taemin, in her culture, when someone saves a woman's life through complete self-sacrifice, that person earns the right to be considered for marriage. She just announced it in front of all these witnesses. The room started spinning. Taemin felt like he couldn't breathe. This had to be a mistake, a misunderstanding. He opened his mouth to explain that he was just an engineer, that he didn't know anything about alien customs, that this was all wrong. But Ambassador Nira was smiling at him now. All the other aliens in the room were making sounds that might have been congratulations. Someone was taking pictures. The moment was being recorded. Hyejin squeezed his hand. "Taemin," she whispered urgently. "Don't say anything stupid. Refusing this claim is considered a terrible insult in Veltharian culture. It would be like saying she's not worthy of you. There could be serious diplomatic consequences." Taemin looked at the ambassador. She was beautiful and strange and completely alien. He didn't know her. He had never even spoken to her. And somehow, in the space of a single day, he had become engaged to her. His quiet life was over. Nothing would ever be simple again. The news spread faster than Taemin could have imagined. By the time he was released from the medical bay, his face was on every screen in the station. The story was everywhere. Human engineer saves alien ambassador. Alien ambassador claims him as future husband. The romance that could change everything. Taemin hated every second of it. He couldn't walk down a corridor without people staring at him. Some wanted to congratulate him. Others wanted to take his picture. A few looked at him with disgust, like he had betrayed humanity by getting involved with an alien. His personal messages were full. His parents had called from Seoul 17 times. His ex-wife Mina had somehow found his contact information and left a message. He deleted it without listening. He didn't want to know what she had to say. Hyejin brought him food in his quarters because he was too afraid to go to the cafeteria. She sat with him while he ate, her face serious. "Earth media is going crazy," she said. "Half of them are calling you a hero who represents the best of humanity. The other half are calling you a fool who's throwing away human dignity." Taemin put down his fork. He wasn't hungry anymore. "I didn't ask for any of this. I just wanted to help someone who was hurt." "I know," Hyejin said gently, "but that doesn't change what's happening. Other alien species are watching this very carefully. The Veltharians are powerful. If you handle this well, it could help humanity's standing in the Galactic Council. If you handle it badly, it could set us back years. So I'm supposed to marry someone I don't know because of politics?" Taemin's voice came out bitter. "No one is forcing you to marry her," Hyejin said, "but you need to handle the situation carefully. Ambassador Jeho wants to meet with you." He's Earth's representative here. He can explain your options. Ambassador Jeho arrived that evening. He was an older man with gray hair and sharp eyes. He wore an expensive suit and moved like someone used to being in control. Two assistants followed him into Taman's small quarters. Taman, Jeho said, not bothering with small talk. You've created quite a situation. I didn't mean to, Taman said quietly. I know. But intentions don't matter much in diplomacy. What matters is the result. Right now, every major species in the galaxy is watching to see what happens next. Some think this could be the beginning of deeper human-alien partnerships. Others are afraid of exactly that. Jeho sat down across from Taman. Let me be clear about something. If you simply refuse Ambassador Nira's claim, there will be consequences. In Veltharian culture, refusing means you're saying she's unworthy. It would be a serious insult. The Veltharians have been some of our strongest supporters in the Council. We can't afford to lose that support. So what am I supposed to do? Taman felt trapped. You have options, Jeho said. Veltharian culture includes a courtship period. 5 traditional trials that test whether two people are truly compatible. If you go through these trials and both of you decide you're not right for each other, you can part honorably. No insult, no diplomatic incident. How long does this courtship period take? Usually several weeks, maybe 2 months. During that time, you would need to spend time with Ambassador Nira, learn about her culture, complete the trials together. Think of it as an extended first date with very high stakes. Taman closed his eyes. This was a nightmare. But what choice did he have? He couldn't just run away. This wasn't just about him anymore. Fine, he said. I'll do the courtship thing. But I'm not promising anything beyond that. Jeho nodded with satisfaction. Good. I'll arrange a formal meeting between you and Ambassador Nira. You can discuss the details together. The meeting was held in a private conference room the next day. Taman arrived early, his stomach in knots. He had barely slept. He kept thinking about how strange this all was. 2 days ago, he was just fixing environmental systems. Now he was about to have a formal conversation with an alien ambassador about maybe marrying her. Ambassador Nira arrived with 2 other Veltharians. One was clearly a guard, tall and serious. The other was a younger woman who looked a bit like Nira but with brighter markings. This is my sister, Riva, Nira said. She spoke in English now, though her accent was musical and strange. She will help with cultural translation. Riva smiled at Taman. Her smile was friendly and put him slightly at ease. Hello, Taman. I've heard so much about your bravery. Taman didn't know what to say. He just nodded. They all sat down. Ambassador Jeho and Hyejin were there too, acting as witnesses and advisors. The room felt too full, too formal. Nira looked directly at Taman. Her dark eyes were hard to read. I understand this situation is difficult for you, she said quietly. It is not easy for me either. That surprised Taman. You're the one who made the declaration. Why would it be difficult for you? Because it was instinct, Nira admitted. When I woke and learned what you had done, my culture's teachings took over. A man who saves a woman's life with complete selflessness is worthy of the highest honor. The words came out before I fully thought about them. But now that they are said, they cannot be easily taken back. So we're both stuck, Taman said. Perhaps, Nira said. Or perhaps this is an opportunity. We do not know each other. We come from very different worlds. But you showed courage and kindness when it mattered. Those are qualities my people value highly. I would like to know if there is more to you than that one moment of heroism. And if there isn't, Taman asked, then we complete the trials, realize we are not compatible and part as friends. No dishonor to either of us, but I think you might surprise yourself. Taman studied her face. She seemed sincere. There was something in her expression that reminded him of himself, actually. A kind of loneliness, a sense of being apart from everyone else. Okay, he said finally. Let's do the trials. But I want to be clear. I'm doing this to avoid a diplomatic problem. Not because I think we're going to fall in love or something. Understood, Nira said. A small smile crossed her face. Love would be expecting too much. Let us aim for mutual respect first. Over the next few days, Riva began teaching Taman about Veltharian culture. She came to his quarters every morning with books, videos, and food from her homeworld. Some of the food was delicious. Some of it made him feel sick. Riva found his reactions funny. You are very honest, Riva said one day. Your face shows everything you think. This is good. My sister has spent too much time with diplomats who hide their true feelings. Is that why she's alone? Taman asked. Then he felt bad for asking such a personal question. But Riva didn't seem offended. She had a mate once. He died in an accident 3 years ago. She threw herself into her work after that. I have not seen her interested in anyone since then. Until now. She's not interested in me, Taman said. This is just cultural obligation, is it? Riva's smile was knowing. Then why does she ask me so many questions about you? What do you like? What makes you laugh? What are human courtship customs? These are not the questions of someone following empty tradition. Taman didn't know what to say to that. The idea that Ambassador Nira might actually be interested in him felt impossible. She was important, powerful, elegant. He was just a lonely engineer who preferred machines to people. That evening, Commander Mirai came to see him. She was the head of station security, a former military officer with a serious face. I need to talk to you about safety, she said without introduction. You've become a symbol. Some people are very happy about your relationship with Ambassador Nira, but others are not. We've been monitoring communications. There are threats. What kind of threats? Taman felt cold, nothing specific yet. Just angry messages from people who think humans should stay separate from aliens. Most of it is probably just talk. But I'm assigning a security detail to watch you anyway. Better safe than sorry. After she left, Taman sat alone in his quarters feeling overwhelmed. Everything had changed so fast. One moment of trying to help someone, and now his entire life was different. He was being watched by the whole galaxy. People were making threats. He was supposed to go through some alien courtship ritual with a woman he barely knew. His terminal beeped. A new message. He almost didn't open it, but something made him look. The message was short and in broken Korean. The words made his blood run cold. The soft ones don't deserve to rise. The claimed one will fall. Taman immediately called Commander Mirai. As he waited for her to arrive, he realized something. This wasn't just about him anymore. Someone out there was willing to hurt him to make a point. And if they were willing to hurt him, they might be willing to hurt Nira too. Despite everything, despite how strange and complicated this all was, he didn't want her to get hurt because of him. Maybe Ambassador Jeho was right. Maybe the stakes really were that high. And maybe, just maybe, he needed to take this more seriously than he had been. The first trial was called the Trial of Minds. Riva explained it to Taman over breakfast. Two people trying to understand each other needed to test their mental connection first. This meant playing a traditional Veltharian strategy game together. It's like chess, but more complicated, Riva said with an amused smile. Don't worry. Nobody expects you to win. The point is to see how you think. Taman met Nira in a quiet garden dome on the station. The space was beautiful, filled with plants from different worlds. Earth flowers grew next to strange alien vegetation that glowed softly in the dim light. They sat at a small table with the game board between them. The game was indeed complicated. The pieces moved in ways that seemed to make no sense. Taman lost the first 3 games quickly. He felt stupid and frustrated. But Nira didn't seem bothered by his failures. You're thinking too linearly, she said after his 3rd loss. You want each piece to serve one purpose. But in this game, each piece can serve many purposes at once. That's confusing, Taman admitted. Yes. But confusion can lead to creativity. Try not to think about what the pieces are supposed to do. Think about what they could do. Taman tried again. This time he stopped trying to play the game the right way. Instead, he used his engineering mind. He looked at the board like it was a system of forces and counterforces. Move this piece here to create pressure. Move that piece there to open up space. Suddenly the game started making more sense. He didn't win, but he lasted longer. Nira's eyes showed interest. Better, much better. Where did that move come from? I thought about it like fluid dynamics, Taman said. Creating flow and pressure points. Nira smiled. It was the first real smile he had seen from her. That's fascinating. I've played this game for over 100 years, and I've never heard someone describe it that way. They played several more games. Between moves, they talked. Nira asked about his work, and he found himself explaining the beauty of a well-designed system, how everything could work together in perfect balance. She listened carefully, asking smart questions. My previous mate was an engineer too, she said quietly. He saw patterns everywhere. In nature, in society, in relationships. You remind me of him a little. Riva told me about him, Taman said. I'm sorry for your loss. It was 3 years ago. The pain is less sharp now, but the absence remains. I threw myself into my diplomatic work. It was easier than feeling the emptiness. She paused. I think you understand that. Running from pain by burying yourself in work. Taman felt uncomfortable with how well she saw through him. My marriage ended because I couldn't open up. My wife said I cared more about machines than about her. Maybe she was right. Or maybe you didn't know how to show your feelings in a way she understood, Nira said. Different people speak different languages of emotion. It doesn't mean the feeling isn't there. They played until the evening. Taman won one game near the end, using a strategy so strange that Nira laughed in surprise when she realized what he had done. The sound of her laugh was musical and genuine. It made something warm spread through his chest. The second trial happened 3 days later. The trial of courage. Riva explained that it wasn't about being fearless. It was about facing fear together and supporting each other through it. The trial took place in the station's zero-gravity training area. They would have to navigate a dangerous obstacle course together, coordinating their movements without gravity to help them. Taman was nervous. He had basic zero-gravity training, but he wasn't an expert. Nira seemed confident, her movements in zero-G graceful and controlled. Of course, she was good at this. She probably traveled between space stations all the time. The course was challenging. They had to move through narrow passages, avoid obstacles that moved unpredictably, and reach the other side within a time limit. If either of them failed to complete it, they both failed. At first, Taman struggled. His body kept wanting to orient itself like there was an up and down, but there wasn't. Nira moved beside him, her hand occasionally steadying him. Don't fight it, she said. There is no down. Let go of that idea. Slowly, Taman's engineering mind adapted. He started thinking about momentum and vectors instead of up and down. Push off this wall at this angle. Use that momentum to reach the next handhold. It became almost mathematical. They were halfway through when Nira suddenly stopped moving. Her body went rigid. Her breathing became fast and shallow. Nira? Taman pushed himself closer to her. What's wrong? I can't find the center, she said. Her voice was tight with panic. No gravity. No reference point. My inner ear is confused, spinning. Everything is spinning. Taman understood immediately. She was experiencing spatial disorientation, common in zero gravity. For someone who usually handled it well, the sudden onset must be terrifying. Close your eyes, he said firmly. Don't look at anything. Just close your eyes, she did. He moved behind her and wrapped his arms around her torso, holding her steady. I'm going to be your reference point, he said. Feel my body against yours. That's your center. I'm not spinning. You're not spinning. The room might be moving, but we're still. Her breathing slowly calmed. She leaned back against him, trusting him to hold her. Now, Taman said, we're going to move together. Keep your eyes closed. I'll tell you when we're pushing off, when we're turning, when we're stopping. You just focus on my voice. They completed the rest of the course that way. Taman guided them both using his understanding of vectors and momentum. He talked constantly, telling her what was happening, where they were going, when to brace for movement. She kept her eyes closed and trusted him completely. When they reached the end, they were both exhausted. Back in normal gravity, Nira opened her eyes. She looked at him with something like wonder. I have never experienced that before, she said. The disorientation. I thought I was going to panic completely, but you kept me grounded. You would have done the same for me, Taman said. Yes, but that's the point of the trial, isn't it? To know that we can rely on each other when things are difficult. The third trial was the hardest so far, the trial of hearts. Each person had to share their deepest fear with the other. Complete honesty, no hiding. They met in Nira's quarters this time. The space was elegant but simple. She had books on shelves, art on the walls. It felt like a real person's home, not just a diplomat's residence. Nira went first. She poured them both a drink, something warm and sweet from her world. Then she sat across from him and spoke. My deepest fear is becoming irrelevant, she said. My people are changing. The values I was raised with, the traditions I hold dear. Many younger Veltharians see them as old-fashioned. I fear that I will become a relic of a past era, unable to adapt to the future. That everything I've built my life around will become meaningless. Taman was quiet for a moment. He hadn't expected such raw honesty. I understand that fear, he said. In a different way. My fear is that I'm fundamentally broken, that there's something wrong with me, that makes me unable to connect with people. My ex-wife said I was emotionally unavailable. My parents say I'm too distant. Even my friends keep me at arm's length. I'm afraid that I'm going to spend my whole life alone because I don't know how to let people in. Saying it out loud hurt. He had never told anyone that before. Not even Hagen. Nira reached across the space between them and took his hand. Her skin was warm and smooth, different from human skin but not unpleasant. "You are not broken," she said firmly. "You saved my life without hesitation. You guided me through panic with patience and care. You shared your fear with me just now. These are not the actions of someone who cannot connect. Perhaps you simply haven't found people who speak your language." "Maybe," Taman said. He didn't entirely believe her, but her words meant something. "And you are not irrelevant," he said. "Traditions matter. They're the foundation that lets us build new things. Without people like you who remember where we came from, we'd lose ourselves completely in chasing the future." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, still holding hands. Something had shifted between them. They were no longer just going through the motions of a courtship ritual. They were actually getting to know each other. Later that night, back in his own quarters, Taman realized something that both excited and terrified him. He was starting to like Nira, not just as a diplomatic obligation or a cultural necessity. He actually enjoyed spending time with her. She was smart and thoughtful and surprisingly funny. When she looked at him, he felt seen in a way he hadn't felt in years. This was dangerous. Getting emotionally involved would make everything more complicated. But maybe that ship had already sailed. Maybe it had sailed the moment he decided to drag her to safety instead of sealing that bulkhead. He was still thinking about this when his door chimed. Commander Mireille stood outside, her face grim. "We have a problem," she said. "Someone got into your quarters while you were with Ambassador Nira. Nothing was stolen, but things were moved around. And there was a message left on your terminal." She showed him the screen. The message was in Korean again, but this time it was clearer and more threatening. "Trials mean nothing. Prove worth or die trying." Taman felt ice in his stomach. Someone on this station wanted to hurt him. And they had been in his room, touching his things, leaving threats. The security that was supposed to protect him had failed. "We're investigating," Mirai said. But either the ceremonial chamber for the fourth trial was beautiful. The walls were decorated with art from both Earth and Veltar. This was where Taman and Nira would create something together, combining their different styles and perspectives into one piece. But Taman couldn't focus on the beauty. He kept thinking about the threat from last night. Commander Mireille's security team had swept the chamber twice, but he still felt nervous. Someone wanted to stop them. Someone had been in his room. Nira noticed his tension immediately. "Are you well?" she asked. He almost lied. Almost said everything was fine. But they had shared their fears in the last trial. He owed her honesty. "Someone broke into my quarters last night," he said quietly. "They left another threat. Security is investigating, but we don't know who it is yet." Nira's expression darkened. "Why didn't you tell me immediately? We could have postponed this trial." "Because I don't want to let some coward control my decisions," Taman said. "And because I want to do this trial with you." Something warm flickered in her eyes. She reached out and touched his arm gently. "Then let us create something worth their fear." They began working on their project. The trial asked them to create a digital sculpture, something that combined human mathematical principles with Veltharian artistic expression. Taman worked on the underlying structure, using equations and algorithms to create interesting shapes. Nira added the artistic elements, flowing patterns and colors that made the mathematical forms come alive. It was fascinating to watch their different approaches merge. Taman's rigid logical structures became fluid and organic under Nira's touch. Her wild emotional additions gained structure and meaning through his mathematical framework. They worked in comfortable silence, occasionally pointing out something to each other, building on each other's ideas. They were so focused on their work that Taman almost didn't notice when something felt wrong. It was subtle at first, a slight difference in the air quality, a faint smell that shouldn't be there. His engineering instincts kicked in. He stopped working and looked around. On the wall, a small control panel showed environmental readings. Something was off. The gas mixture in the room was changing. "Nira," he said sharply. "We need to leave, now." She looked up, confused by his sudden urgency. "What's wrong?" "The air. Someone's tampering with the environmental system. The gas mixture is becoming toxic. We have maybe a few minutes before it reaches dangerous levels." They ran for the door. Taman hit the emergency release, but nothing happened. The door was locked. Override codes didn't work. Someone had sealed them in. Nira immediately activated her emergency communicator. Security, this is Ambassador Nira. We're trapped in Ceremonial Chamber 7. Environmental sabotage. Need immediate extraction. Commander Mirai's voice came back instantly. On our way. 2 minutes.
Can you hold?
Taman was already at the wall panel, pulling it open with shaking hands. Maybe, if I can reroute the air supply. He worked frantically, bypassing damaged circuits, rerouting power. Nira stood beside him, holding a light so he could see better. The air was getting harder to breathe. His head was starting to hurt. There, he gasped, making the final connection. Clean air began flowing again, pushing out the toxic gas. They both breathed deeply, coughing. Security burst through the door 30 seconds later. Commander Mirai took one look at them and ordered immediate medical scans. Then she began barking orders at her team, sealing the room, collecting evidence. The medical team cleared them both. They had breathed some of the toxic gas, but not enough to cause serious harm. Taman's quick recognition of the problem had saved their lives. The station went into full lockdown. Commander Mirai's investigation moved fast. Within hours, they had identified the saboteur. It was a human technician named Deho, who worked in the Environmental Systems Department. Security found him trying to leave the station on a cargo ship. Taman asked to see him. Commander Mirai didn't think it was a good idea, but she allowed it. Deho sat in a holding cell, his hands restrained. He was young, maybe 25. He looked angry and defiant. Why? Taman asked. Why did you try to kill us? Because you're betraying humanity, Deho said. His voice was bitter. Getting cozy with aliens, acting like we're all one big happy family. But we're not. They're not like us. They never will be. Every time we give them more power over us, we lose a piece of what makes us human. So you tried to murder an ambassador and start a war? Taman couldn't believe what he was hearing. I tried to stop a mistake, Deho said. You becoming a symbol of human-alien unity. People looking up to you. It's wrong. We should stay separate. Keep our own identity, but no one listens. Everyone's too excited about being part of the galactic community. They don't see what we're losing. Taman felt a confusing mix of anger and pity. Deho was clearly disturbed, but his words touched on something real. Fear of losing identity. Fear of change happening too fast. These were real concerns that some humans felt. Change is scary, Taman said. I understand that. But killing people isn't the answer. Working together doesn't mean losing ourselves. It means growing. Easy for you to say, Deho spat. You get the alien princess and become a hero. The rest of us just get pushed aside. There was nothing more to say. Taman left the holding cell feeling shaken. Deho would face serious charges. But the ideas that drove him wouldn't disappear just because he was in prison. Commander Mirai's investigation revealed something else troubling. Deho hadn't acted alone. He had been encouraged by someone off the station, someone with political power. Messages between Deho and this unknown person showed a pattern of manipulation, feeding Deho's fears and pushing him toward violence. The investigation pointed to Counselor Vex, a member of the Galactic Council from the Drakthar species. The Drakthar were known for their conservative views. They had opposed humanity's rapid advancement in the Council. Vex had apparently decided to take action through a human proxy, but proving Vex's involvement was difficult. He had diplomatic immunity. The evidence was suggestive but not conclusive. Ambassador Jeho was furious but politically constrained. That evening, Taman and Nira met privately. They had both been through medical checks and debriefings. They were exhausted, but they needed to talk. I should release you from this courtship, Nira said. She looked tired and sad. Someone tried to kill you because of me, because of what we represent together. I can't ask you to continue risking your life. Taman was quiet for a moment. A few weeks ago, he would have jumped at this opportunity, an honorable way out. No more pressure, no more danger, back to his simple life with his machines, but that wasn't what he wanted anymore. No, he said firmly. I'm not quitting because some extremist tried to scare us. If I quit now, they win. They prove that fear is stronger than connection. I won't give them that, but why? Nira asked. You didn't ask for any of this. You could walk away and no one would blame you. Because I want to be here, Taman said. The words felt scary but true. These past few weeks getting to know you, doing the trials, It's been the most alive I've felt in years. You see me, Nira, really see me. Not the broken parts I try to hide. Not the awkward engineer who can't connect with people. You see all of it, and you're still here. Nira's glowing markings brightened, which he had learned meant she was feeling strong emotion. I feel the same, she said softly. When my mate died, I thought that part of my life was over, that I would spend the rest of my years in diplomatic service alone. But then you saved my life, and then you kept saving it, in different ways. By being honest, by being yourself, by not running away even when things got difficult. They moved closer to each other. Physical intimacy between their species was complicated. Different biology meant different expressions, but they found their own way. Nira rested her forehead against his, her hands on his shoulders. Taemin's hands found her waist. They stood like that, breathing together, grounding each other. We still have one more trial, Nira said. The trial of purpose. We must identify a problem affecting both our peoples and propose a solution together. I think we already know what problem we need to solve, Taemin said. The fear and mistrust between our species. People like Deho who think connection means losing identity. We need to show them a better way. A training program, Nira suggested. Bringing young humans and aliens together to work on technical problems, learning to communicate across species lines, building friendships before the prejudices set in. Yes, Taemin said, getting excited. We could use the station as a pilot location. Mixed teams working on actual engineering challenges, learning that different perspectives make solutions stronger, not weaker. They worked late into the night developing their proposal. When it was finished, they presented it to a small committee of diplomats and educators. The response was positive. The program would take time to implement, but the foundation was solid. They had completed all 5 trials. Officially, they could now make their decision. Continue forward to formal union or part as friends with honor intact. But before they could discuss their choice, Ambassador Jeho arrived with urgent news. The Galactic Council is calling a special session, he said. They want to address the Daiho incident, and the broader Q-Conquered Prime was overwhelming. The mobile space city that housed the Galactic Council was bigger than anything Taemin had ever seen. Structures from hundreds of different species connected in ways that seemed impossible. Some sections existed in different gravities. Some didn't use gravity at all. The architecture made his engineer's brain hurt trying to understand how it all worked. He felt very small here. On Horizon Station, he had been competent, useful. Here he was just one human among thousands of alien species. Most of them had been exploring space when humans were still living in caves. Nira stayed close to him as they walked through the massive corridors. She could sense his discomfort. It's overwhelming for everyone the first time, she said. Even for those of us who grew up knowing about the council. Don't try to understand it all at once. Just focus on why we're here. They had 3 days before the hearing. Ambassador Jeho spent those days preparing Taemin for what to expect. The council chamber could hold thousands of representatives. All of them would be watching, judging, deciding humanity's future based partly on what Taemin said. Don't try to be someone you're not, Jeho advised. The council has heard countless speeches from politicians and diplomats. What they need to hear is genuine human perspective. Your story. Your truth. That's your strength. The night before the hearing, Taemin couldn't sleep. He kept going over possible questions in his mind. What if he said something wrong? What if he made humanity look bad? The responsibility felt crushing. Nira found him sitting alone in their shared quarters, staring out at the stars. She sat beside him without speaking for a while. I'm scared, Taemin admitted. What if I mess this up? Then you mess it up, Nira said simply. You're not perfect. Neither is any species in that chamber tomorrow. They all made mistakes when they were young civilizations. Some still make mistakes now. All you can do is speak from your heart and trust that it's enough. How are you so calm about this? He asked. I'm not calm, she said. I'm terrified too, but I've learned that fear doesn't go away by wishing it away. You have to move forward with it. Let it remind you that what you're doing matters. The morning of the hearing arrived too quickly. Taemin dressed in formal clothes that Ambassador Jeho had provided. A mix of human and Veltharian styles, showing respect to both cultures. Nira wore similar mixed styling. They were presenting themselves as a united front. The council chamber was massive. Taemin's hands shook as he walked in. Thousands of beings filled the tiered seating. Some looked like variations on humanoid forms. Others were so alien that Taemin couldn't begin to guess their biology. All of them were watching him. The hearing began with formal proceedings. Representatives from different factions presented their positions. The Drakthar, led by Councillor Vex, argued that humans were advancing too quickly. They pointed to Deho's attack as evidence of human instability. If humans couldn't control their own extremists, how could they be trusted with greater galactic responsibility? The Veltharians and several other species defended humanity. They argued that every young civilization had growing pains. Extremism existed in all societies. Humans had shown remarkable adaptability and potential. Holding them back because of one disturbed individual was unfair. The debate went on for hours. Taman sat in the witness area, listening to aliens argue about humanity's worth. It was strange and uncomfortable hearing his entire species discussed like a problem to be solved. Finally, he was called to speak. He walked to the central platform on shaking legs. A translation device was attached to his collar so everyone could understand him. The chamber fell silent. A senior council member, a being called Elder Kesh, addressed him. Human Taman, you have become a symbol of human-alien cooperation. Tell us, in your own words, why humanity should be trusted with greater integration into galactic society. Taman's mind went blank. All the prepared speeches Ambassador Jeho had given him disappeared. He stood there in silence for what felt like forever. Then he remembered Nira's words. Speak from your heart, I can't tell you that, he said finally. His voice echoed through the chamber. I can't promise that humanity won't make mistakes. I can't guarantee that we'll always make the right choices. Because I don't know if that's true. There was a murmur through the chamber. Ambassador Jeho looked worried. But Taman kept talking. A few weeks ago I was just an engineer. I fixed environmental systems. I kept to myself. I didn't think about politics or diplomacy or the future of my species. Then something happened that forced me to change. I saved someone's life without thinking about the consequences, and that one action pulled me into this world I never asked to be part of. Ambassador Nira claimed me as her intended according to her culture's laws. At first I resented it. I wanted my simple life back. But then I got to know her. We went through trials together. We talked about our fears. We learned to trust each other. And I realized something important. Taman looked directly at the council members. Being part of something bigger than yourself is scary. Opening yourself up to people who are different is hard. There's always a risk that you'll be hurt, that you'll be misunderstood, that you'll lose something of yourself in the process. But you also gain something: understanding, connection, growth. That's what humanity is going through right now. We're scared. We're making mistakes. We have people like Deho who are so afraid of losing our identity that they lash out. But we also have people who are trying, who are reaching across the void to connect with you, who want to learn and grow and be part of something bigger. I'm not a hero. I'm not special. I'm just a regular person who was given an extraordinary situation. And if I can learn to open my heart to someone from a completely different world, then maybe humanity as a whole can do the same. Maybe we all can. The chamber was completely silent when he finished. Taman didn't know if that was good or bad. He had spoken from his heart like Nira suggested. But maybe his heart wasn't enough. Then Nira was called to speak. She walked to the platform with grace and confidence. But when she spoke, there was emotion in her voice that Taman had never heard before. My people value tradition highly, she began. We have ancient laws and customs that have guided us for thousands of years. When I claimed Taman as my intended, I was following those traditions. It was instinct programming culture. I didn't think about the political implications. I just knew that someone who would sacrifice himself for a stranger was worthy of the highest honor. But what developed after that initial claim was something more, something beyond tradition. Taman challenged me to see past my comfortable assumptions. He showed me that growth requires vulnerability, that connection requires risk, that love in whatever form it takes requires courage. Nira paused, looking around the chamber. Many of you knew my previous mate. He died 3 years ago, killed by extremists from my own species who feared the progressive changes he advocated. I share this because extremism is not unique to humanity. Every species in this chamber has had to face the fear that comes with change. The question before you today is not whether humans are perfect. They are not. The question is whether they are willing to grow, to learn, to become better. I have witnessed Taman's growth firsthand. I have seen him move from isolation to connection, from fear to courage, from rejection to acceptance. If one human can change so much in such a short time, Imagine what humanity as a whole can become with patience and support. My mate believed that the future belonged to those willing to bridge divides rather than reinforce them. He died for that belief. I ask you to honor his memory by giving humanity the same chance he would have given them. The chance to grow. The chance to belong. The chance to become part of something greater than themselves. When Nira finished, there was a long silence. Then slowly a sound began to build. It started with a few beings and grew into thousands. It took Taman a moment to realize it was applause, or the equivalent in dozens of different species customs. The council deliberated for hours. Tameen and Nira waited in a private chamber, too nervous to speak much. Riva brought them food they couldn't eat. Ambassador Jeho paced back and forth. Finally, they were called back. Elder Kesh announced the decision. It was a compromise, as most political decisions were. Humanity would face additional oversight periods for certain advancement opportunities. They wouldn't be given unrestricted access to advanced technologies or strategic positions yet, but they wouldn't be restricted or marginalized either. It wasn't a complete victory, but it wasn't a defeat either. Humanity would continue to grow within the galactic community, just with more careful supervision. There was one more announcement. Counselor Vex had been formally censured for his involvement with Deho. Evidence had been found of his communications encouraging the attack. He would keep his position due to diplomatic immunity, but his influence was severely damaged. After the formal proceedings ended, Taman and Nira found themselves alone in a garden overlooking the stars. Earth was visible in the distance, a small blue dot. "We did it," Taman said quietly. "We actually did it." "We survived it," Nira corrected with a small smile. "The real work is just beginning." She was right. They had completed the 5 trials. They had testified before the planning a wedding was complicated enough. Planning the first human Veltharian bonding ceremony in history was something else entirely. Every decision became political. Every choice represented something larger than just 2 people choosing to spend their lives together. Taman's parents arrived from Seoul 2 weeks before the ceremony. His mother, Yona, hugged him tightly at the docking port. His father, Sangjun, shook his hand formally. They both looked overwhelmed by Conquered Prime's massive scale. Meeting Nira was awkward. Yona tried hard to be welcoming, but her eyes kept drifting to Nira's glowing markings, her unusual height, her alien features. Sangjun was more obviously uncomfortable. He barely spoke during the first dinner. Later that night, Taman found his father alone in the guest quarters, staring out at the stars. "You don't approve," Taman said. "It wasn't a question," Sangjun sighed. "It's not about approval. I just don't understand it. She's not human, Taman. She's so different from us. How can you build a life with someone so alien?" "She is different," Taman agreed. "But that doesn't mean we can't understand each other. We've worked hard to bridge the gaps between us. And honestly, she understands me better than most humans ever have. But what about children? What about growing old together? Her species lives longer than ours. Have you thought about what that means?" "Yes," Taman said quietly. "We've talked about all of it. The difficult parts, the impossible parts. We're going into this with our eyes open. I love her, father. That has to be enough." Sangjun was quiet for a long time. "I'm afraid of losing you," he finally admitted. "To this alien world I don't understand. To a life I can't be part of. You're my son, and I feel like you're moving somewhere I can't follow." Taman felt a lump in his throat. "You're not losing me. I'm still me. I'm just growing. And I hope you can grow with me." His father didn't promise anything, but he nodded slowly, and that was something. The ceremony planning continued. Riva was in charge of coordinating everything, and she was both excited and stressed. A traditional Veltharian bonding involved ritual scarification, marking both partners permanently, but humans didn't typically practice that custom. They had to find a compromise that honored both cultures. The solution was elegant. Instead of permanent scars, they would wear ceremonial bands during the ritual that left temporary marks, symbolic rather than lasting. After the ceremony, they could choose whether to make the marks permanent. It satisfied tradition while respecting human customs, but security was becoming a bigger concern. Commander Mireille reported unusual surveillance around the ceremony venue. Counselor Vex had been censured but not removed from power. Intelligence suggested he was coordinating with extremist groups from multiple species. "They're planning something," Mireille told Taman and Nira in a private briefing. We don't know exactly what, but the chatter is increasing. Some groups view your bonding as a symbolic target. They want to disrupt it to send a message against integration. What are our options? Nira asked. We can postpone the ceremony until the threat is neutralized, Mirai said. Or we proceed with maximum security. But I can't guarantee your safety 100%. Not with this many unknowns. Taman and Nira looked at each other. They didn't need to discuss it. They both knew what they wanted. We proceed, Nira said firmly. Canceling would give them what they want. It would prove that fear is stronger than love. We refuse to give them that victory. Understood, Mirai said. Then we prepare for anything. The night before the ceremony, Hyejin visited Taman. She had been working with security to investigate the threats. She looked tired but determined. I just wanted to check on you, she said. Make sure you're okay before tomorrow. I'm nervous, Taman admitted. Not about Nira, I'm certain about her. But everything else. The threats, the publicity, becoming a symbol. It's a lot. You're not just a symbol, Hyejin said. You're my friend first. And I want you to know that I'm proud of you. When I first met you, you were so closed off, so afraid of connecting with anyone. Look at you now. About to bond with someone from another world. That takes incredible courage. Or incredible stupidity, Taman said with a weak smile. Maybe both, Hyejin laughed. But that's what makes it beautiful. You're choosing love even when it's complicated and scary and potentially dangerous. That's what humanity should be about. The ceremony was scheduled for midday. The venue was a transparent dome on Concord Prime with a view of Earth in the distance. Billions would watch the live transmission. Every major news service in the galaxy had sent representatives. Taman dressed in his ceremonial clothes. A modified Korean hanbok in deep blue, adapted to accommodate the Veltharian ritual bands. He looked at himself in the mirror and barely recognized the person staring back. When had he become someone who did things like this? The ceremony began. Taman walked down the aisle between rows of seated guests. Humans, Veltharians, and dozens of other species all gathered together. At the end of the aisle, Nira waited. She wore a traditional Veltharian gown with Korean embroidery woven into the fabric. She was breathtaking. They faced each other as the officiant, a Veltharian elder, began the ceremony in both languages. The words washed over Taman. He was too focused on Nira's face, her glowing markings pulsing gently with emotion. They exchanged vows. Taman spoke in Korean first, then repeated in Veltharian. Nira did the opposite. The words were simple but profound. Promises to support each other, to grow together, to bridge the distance between their worlds with patience and love. Then came the ritual marking. The ceremonial bands were placed on their arms, designed to leave temporary marks that symbolized their bond. The elder raised her hands to begin the blessing. That was when everything went wrong. The broadcast signal suddenly cut out. Screens throughout the dome went dark, replaced with a manifesto in multiple languages. Extremist rhetoric about keeping species pure, about the danger of integration, about how this ceremony was a betrayal of natural order. Panic rippled through the crowd. Security teams moved quickly, trying to restore the signal. Commander Mirai's voice came over emergency channels, calm but urgent. They had prepared for this possibility, but the broadcast hack was just a distraction. The real attack came from within the crowd. Several individuals who had infiltrated as service personnel suddenly moved toward the ceremony platform. They were armed, not with weapons that would trigger security scanners, but with tools that could be just as dangerous in the wrong hands. What happened next would be discussed for years afterward. The attackers didn't account for one thing. The guests at this ceremony weren't just passive observers. They were people from dozens of species who had chosen to attend, who supported what Taman and Nira represented. A Veltharian diplomat tackled one attacker. A human journalist tripped another. Taman's father Sangjun surprised everyone by physically blocking an attacker's path and wrestling them to the ground. Species that had never worked together before coordinated instinctively to protect the ceremony. Commander Mirai's security forces arrived within seconds, subduing the attackers. The broadcast was restored just as quickly. The manifesto replaced with images of different species working together to stop the attack. In the chaos, investigators found evidence directly linking Counselor Vex to the attack. Not just encouragement this time, but detailed planning and coordination. His diplomatic immunity was immediately revoked. He was arrested in front of the entire galactic audience. After order was restored, the elder asked if Taman and Nira wanted to continue. They looked at each other. Then they looked at their guests, many of whom had been willing to risk themselves to protect this moment. Yes, Nira said firmly. We continue. This is too important to let fear stop it. The ceremony resumed. The ritual marking proceeded, the ceremonial bands leaving their temporary symbols on both their arms. When the elder pronounced them bonded, the applause was thunderous. Not just from the guests in the dome, but from billions watching across the galaxy. Taman and Nira turned to face their guests. They weren't just a human and a Veltharian anymore. They were something new. A partnership that proved different worlds could merge without either losing what made them unique. The reception was joyful, despite the earlier chaos. Maybe because of it, people who had fought together to protect the ceremony bonded over the shared experience. Taman watched his father talking animatedly with a Veltharian warrior about the takedown techniques they had used. His mother was learning Veltharian cooking methods from Nira's relatives. Hyejin found Taman during a quiet moment. You did it, she said with genuine happiness. You actually did it. We almost didn't, Taman said. If those attackers had been better prepared, if the guests hadn't stepped in, if security hadn't responded so quickly, but they did, Hyejin interrupted. That's the point. When it mattered, people from different worlds chose to protect something beautiful. That's what your bonding represents. Not perfection, but possibility. Later, Taman and Nira managed to slip away from the celebration for a few minutes. They stood together in a quiet corner of the dome, watching Earth and Velthar both visible in the vast space beyond. How do you feel? Nira asked. Married, Taman said. Then he smiled. Bonded, whatever we're calling it. It feels her 3 months had passed since the bonding ceremony. Taman still sometimes woke up surprised to find Nira beside him, her glowing markings dimmed in sleep. After years of living alone, sharing space with someone took adjustment. But it was an adjustment he welcomed. They had accepted both opportunities. Half their time was spent on Earth, leading the integration training program. The other half was spent at Concord Prime, serving as junior advisors to the Galactic Council. It meant constant travel, irregular schedules, and very little privacy. But it also meant they were making a real difference. The training program had started small, 20 young humans and 20 young aliens from various species, brought together to work on collaborative engineering projects. The first few weeks had been awkward. Language barriers, cultural misunderstandings, and underlying prejudices made everything difficult. But gradually, something beautiful happened. The participants started to see past the differences. A human engineer and a Veltharian technician discovered they approached problem-solving in complementary ways. A shy human student found confidence with the support of an alien mentor. Friendships formed that crossed species lines. Taman watched these connections develop with quiet satisfaction. This was what he and Nira represented. Not erasing differences, but learning to work together because of them. Not everyone was happy about their work. Conservative factions still existed, both human and alien. Taman received angry messages regularly. Some accused him of betraying humanity. Others called him naive. A few contained actual threats that security took seriously. One day, Taman received an unexpected visitor. It was Deho, the technician who had tried to kill them. He was still in prison but had requested a meeting. Taman almost refused, but Nira encouraged him to go. Facing him might give you both closure, she said. And who knows? People can change. Deho looked different, smaller somehow, less angry. He sat across from Taman in the prison meeting room with his hands folded on the table. Thank you for coming, Deho said quietly. I wasn't sure you would. I almost didn't, Taman admitted. Why did you want to see me? To apologize. I know it doesn't change what I did. But I need to say it anyway. I was wrong. I let fear turn me into something terrible. I'm sorry. Taman studied Deho's face. The apology seemed genuine. What changed? Time, therapy, and watching what you and Ambassador Nira have built. There's a screen in the common area. We see news about your training program, about the young people learning to work together. I realized that what I was afraid of losing, you're actually helping to preserve. Human identity doesn't disappear through connection. It grows. That's a big change from wanting to kill us, Taman said. I was manipulated. Counselor Vex fed my fears, pushed me toward violence. But that doesn't excuse my choices. I made them. I have to live with that. But maybe, if you'd allow it, I could do something positive. There's an education program here. I've been taking classes, learning about different cultures, about why integration matters. Maybe someday I could teach others, help them not make my mistakes. Taman was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. I'll talk to the program directors, see if there's a way to make that happen. But Deho, understand something. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. You did real harm. That doesn't just disappear. I know, Deho said. I'm not asking for forgetting. Just a chance to do better. Life at Concord Prime brought different challenges. As junior advisors, Taman and Nira helped mediate disputes between species, reviewed policy proposals, and attended countless meetings. They were the youngest people in most rooms, and some council members didn't take them seriously at first, but their unique perspective proved valuable. When two species couldn't agree on trade terms, Taman and Nira helped them find common ground by identifying shared values beneath the disagreement. When a new species applied for council membership, they advocated for patience and support rather than immediate judgment. They weren't perfect. They made mistakes, misjudged situations, sometimes let their personal feelings cloud their judgment, but they learned from each error and kept trying. Their personal life was equally imperfect and equally beautiful. They had to navigate the complications of their different biologies. Nira entered a monthly hibernation state that initially frightened Taman until he learned it was natural and necessary. His late-night engineering projects sometimes disturbed her sleep, so they designated separate workspaces. The question of children came up during a quiet dinner one evening. Nira mentioned that her sister Riva was expecting a child and asked if Taman ever thought about having children of their own. Cross-species reproduction isn't naturally possible, Taman said carefully. But there are medical procedures. Gene therapy, artificial gestation. It would be complicated and expensive, but possible. Is it something you want? Nira asked. Taman thought about it. A year ago, he would have said no immediately. He barely managed his own life. How could he be responsible for a child? But now, looking at Nira across the table, imagining a small person who carried both their legacies. Maybe, he said. Not now. We're both too busy with everything else. But someday, if we can create a world where a human Veltharian child would be accepted and loved, yes, I think I'd want that, Nira smiled. Then we have another reason to make our work succeed. We're not just building this future for others. We're building it for our own family. The support network around them grew stronger. Hijin had been promoted to head the Security Analysis Division for the Integration Program. She had started dating a Veltharian engineer she met through the training sessions, proving that Taman and Nira weren't the only ones building cross-species connections. Commander Mirai took a position training joint human-alien security forces. Her no-nonsense approach earned respect across species lines. She occasionally checked in with Taman and Nira, making sure they were safe and handling the pressure. Ambassador Jeho became Earth's first full council representative. He relied heavily on Taman and Nira's insights, treating them as genuine advisors rather than just symbols. His pragmatism was tempered by what he had witnessed, and he became a true advocate for careful but genuine integration. Even Taman's parents adapted. His mother Yeona video-called regularly, asking about Nira's well-being and sharing family news. She had started learning basic Veltharian cooking and language. His father Sangjun was slower to warm up, but he had stopped questioning Taman's choices. He even admitted once that watching Taman's happiness made him reconsider his own prejudices. 6 months after their bonding, the training program graduated its first class. 20 mixed-species teams had completed the intensive program and were being placed in positions across the galaxy. The graduation ceremony was smaller than the bonding ceremony, but felt just as significant. Taman watched the young people receive their certificates. They laughed together, celebrated together, promised to stay in touch despite being assigned to different locations. These friendships would ripple outward, creating more connections, more understanding, more hope. That evening, Taman and Nira returned to their quarters exhausted but satisfied. They had a rare few days off before the next council session. No meetings, no ceremonies, no political obligations, just time together. They sat in their observation room watching both Earth and Velthar visible on split screens. Real-time imaging technology let them see both their homeworlds simultaneously. Taman never got tired of that view. Do you ever regret it? Nira asked quietly. How your life changed that day on Horizon Station? Taman thought about it honestly. Sometimes I miss the simplicity. Just me and my machines, no pressure, no publicity, no threats. But then I look at what we've built together. The program, the friendships, the changes we're helping create. And I look at you. No, I don't regret it. This life is harder, but it's also fuller. It means something. I feel the same, Nira said. There are days when the responsibility feels crushing. When I wonder if we're really making a difference or just putting on a show. But then I see those young people graduating. See humans and aliens working together like it's natural. It reminds me why we do this. We're not done, Taman said. There's still so much to do. More programs to build, more minds to change, more bridges to construct. No, we're not done, Nira agreed. But we don't have to be done today. Today we can just be us, a bonded pair having a quiet evening together. An alert chimed on their console. Another crisis, another meeting request, another situation requiring their attention. Taman groaned. Nira laughed. So much for our quiet evening, he said. Look at the message first, Nira suggested. Maybe it can wait, Taman checked. It was from the council. A formal request for them to consider full advisory positions, not just junior roles. They would have real voting power, real influence on galactic policy. It was an incredible opportunity and a massive responsibility. He showed Nira the message. They looked at each other for a long moment. What do you think? He asked. I think we should talk about it tomorrow, Nira said. Right now, let's just exist. Together. No symbols, no politics, no galaxy to save. Just you and me. Taman smiled and set the console aside. She was right. The future would always be there waiting with its demands.